devo dire che
Hey there, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. In today's show, I've got, I just recently did an interview, a video interview with HomeFront Firearms Training, and he does a few other things as well. And the reason I'm recording this intro is because the beginning of that show, we almost ended the show. Like I said a couple times here in the show, it completely went foobar in the beginning. We almost had to end it. So it turned into, everything sort of got ironed out. We fixed everything that we could, and it turned into a really good conversation. So I wanted to play that today. You did miss the beginning when we were talking about the current gun culture or anti-gun culture and some less than lethal type options. I tried to go over a little bit of that in it as we started this and as it worked out, but there was quite a bit. The first 20 minutes or so of this really didn't go well, so I didn't include it in the podcast. But it was a really good conversation with Anthony from HomeFront Firearms Training. He also does a few other things over on his website, the home security consulting, the schools consulting, and business consulting. And we didn't get an opportunity to get into the home security. So I'm going to have Anthony on back in the future, and we are going to go over that because home security is really one of the most important things with the way society is going these days. And short of moving to a less populated area, which is probably the best thing you can do, it's not a feasible option for most people. Some of us have already sort of a little bit out, but some of us have no choice other than to live in the suburbs or even, an urban area. So I think home security is one of those things we need to think about quite a bit and be proactive about. And I wanted to pick Anthony's brain about that. So you can watch out for that in the near future. But with that, I'll go ahead and get into the show. Like I said, that you sort of starts off after the first 20 minutes. It sort of starts off right in the middle of the conversation, but it was a really good conversation from this point forward. So I wanted to play the whole thing. Like I said, all the links will be at the show notes over at survivalsprepper.net. If you've got any questions or anything, you can reach out to me at dale@survivalsprepper.net or go to Anthony's website, homefrontft.com, and get in contact with him. But at any rate, let's go ahead and start the show this week. Just so everyone knows, I have to put this picture on because I'm not going to have just my mug on the screen. Anthony's video, his audio is working way better without the video, so we're going to go with that this way tonight. I'm not going to make you repeat that whole spiel again. That was Plan B. We just went into your question, the political climate and all that in a lot of detail, and everyone missed it except for me. So I apologize about that. But I am going to have you reiterate a little bit right there. We were talking about less than lethal options and how it's not your best option. I'll just say this one more time. That way everybody heard me, and then we can go into this. But I watched this murder show a little while back where this intruder went into somebody's home and basically kidnapped or held that family hostage. At one point, a lady got a hold of the bad guy's gun. I don't know if he put it down. He's hopped up on heroin or something. I don't know what the situation was, but she ended up getting a hold of the bad guy's gun. That right there is a deadly force, I think anyway, situation. But she chose to kneecap the guy instead of ending the situation. And it turned out to be a bad idea because he ended up getting the gun back from her and killing her husband. So what Plan B was talking about less than lethal options as far as pepper balls, and you can go into that a little bit if you want as well, since nobody heard you. But these days, it's the best option is to end the threat if that's what the situation calls for. But what we were just talking about was these days that may not be the option, right? Or that may not be an option depending on where the state you are. and things like that. So I suppose kind of elaborate on that a little bit. You don't have to go through the same thing we just talked about unless you want to, but yeah, elaborate on those a little bit as far as the lethal force and the less than lethal, and then some of the pepper balls.
So when you're dealing with a self-defense situation, the way that I teach, excuse me, is you want to shoot to stop the threat. Once the threat is stopped, then you stop. If you continue firing into the bad guy even after he falls down, well, then now you're going to be liable because now you're continuing the fight when you've already stopped it. Now, that's not to say that if you have to shoot somebody and they fall down and then they get back up and they're coming at you again, well, then you can continue to engage. But once they fall and the threat is eliminated, disengage and obviously holster your gun and make sure you're on the phone with 911. As far as the less than lethal, like I was talking about earlier, a lot of states still do not like people carrying firearms, like Massachusetts, California, Maryland, Washington, D.C. is like no-go for firearms. And so if you live in those states, your only option is less than lethal. Now, the less than lethal option, you can get the pepper balls. Berna has a pistol or a rifle that uses pepper balls. You can use paintballs. You can use tasers. Mace is always good. Fox makes a very good OC spray, which is the police issued OC spray. And that stuff works pretty good. But again, if you're going to go up against somebody that's on something, they might not even feel it and they might continue to come.
I think I think my audio is coming. In the chat. They're saying they can hear you. Denise said she can hear you. Okay. I got to put it on this screen. Sorry, Anthony, I got to see if I put this on, can y'all still hear what's going on? Let me know in the chat, and let me know if you can hear Anthony, because it's saying I can hear you in my speakers, but it's saying on there that you're not, the little microphone on the bottom thing saying it's not very loud, but I can hear you just fine. So, but
yeah, it seems like they can hear okay. Onus Nuss says it's going in and out, but
that's weird. Okay. Let's just continue on with it then. Plan B, I'm going to, sound comes and goes. I wonder if all right, we're just gonna go with it. Plan B, we tried to go through your question there, and everything was just foobar from the whole thing, but concealed carry, all of that. The one thing he did ask, though, Anthony, I want to get your thoughts on. He said something about a laser training adaptable or adapter for non-range practice. Yeah, suggestions on like the best one.
Yeah, so when I went and did my research, Mantis X is always one of the top of the line. Mantis X actually has, let me get to my notes here. Mantis X starts out at $99 and goes all the way up to $249. That's one of the better laser training devices. There are a few other ones. Cert pills are more on the pricey end. And then you have Strike Man, which Strike Man is actually pretty good. You get a wide array of targets to shoot at. Starts out about $199, goes up to like $269 in price, but the Mantis X is by far the superior one if you're looking for those.
And also, let me also, as far as training at home, like instead of using your actual firearm, I've got a training. It's like a pellet gun sort of thing. It's not the same weight. It is the same size and design as my Smith and Wesson Shield, so I can use the same holster and practice that. What do you suggest as far as practicing at home? With the laser pointer, and is it even worth it to use the ones that sort of shoot the pellets? Because that's not going to help your accuracy or anything, but it would help with your draw, right? Dry firing like that.
It'll help with your trigger pull. So when we dry fire, we're dry firing to get our fingers and our mind to work the same. Like so you'll be able to feel where that trigger is, because if you look at most firearms, there's a gap between when you put your finger on the trigger and when you get to, there's like a little wall right before you hit the trigger. So when you pull the trigger back, you come to a wall, and that is where your trigger is. So when you pull the trigger from that point, yes, plan B, muscle memory, absolutely. So all the dry fire does is help you get muscle memory. So when you draw at home and you bring your firearm up, it helps you get your eyes set and your trigger finger set, and you can pull the trigger and you can feel that break when it's breaking. And all that is it teaches you muscle memory, like Plan B said. It is it's a must do if you can't get to the range. Like if it's raining outside and you can't get out to the range, it's all muddy, you just go find a place where that's going to be your safe place, and you designate a safe wall, and you make sure your weapon is clear, and you can dry fire all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Baghdad Bill had a question as well, and we're going to have to, and then I got one from Jammer also. We're going to have to sort of not fly through these, but we got a lot to cover, and it took us 20 minutes just to get the show running. So, but Baghdad Bill said, I always like to hear opinions and preferences on concealed weapons, holsters, caliber, semi-automatic, or revolver. You were talking before the show about the caliber and things like that. I think the preferences as far as what type of gun, that is one of those debates that I don't know that there's an answer to, right?
As far as the caliber and
no, the type, whether you're talking Glock, Smith and Wesson, whatever it is.
So what I usually tell my students when they come in, they say, "Oh, what kind of firearm should I get?" And I always tell, and when I teach the ladies, I always tell them, don't let your husband or your boyfriend buy your gun for you, because if it doesn't feel good in your hands, it's going to be a paperweight. And
yeah,
so you need to go to the store and actually feel them and get what you are comfortable with, right? Because if it's a revolver, and I don't know, there's something about the revolver that people like. My personal preference is I'm a SIG guy. I like my SIGs. They're comfortable in my hands. They conceal very well. So it's really all about personal preference as far as the type of firearm that you want to use.
yeah, yeah. And we got Lisa a long time ago for concealed carry when we were. I don't have a concealed carry permit. We don't at this point, but we were going to get one, and we got her a little Ruger LP9, and a cool looking little gun, had a laser sight on it, and just something that was small, compact. She could put in her purse and really like the gun. But as you use it a little while, we figured out that trigger pull scared the crap out of her because it took so long. Almost like you're just pulling it twice. So it just didn't, to speak to what you were talking about, it just wouldn't have worked for her because of the hesitation that, you pull it, you think it's going to go, and it doesn't, and then all of a sudden it does. So she was timid about it. So yeah, I think the practicing with them as well too.
Yeah, I think the LTP9, is that what you said, right? The Ruger.
Yeah,
LTP.
yeah.
Yeah, I believe those have really, really long trigger pulls,
Yeah.
And when you get to like your semi-automatic striker fire pistols, which is, your SIG 365s, your 320s, your Glock 43X, Glock 19s, and so on. Excuse me. Those are striker fire, and the triggers are usually around 6 to 8 pounds, depending on if you get something that's custom made. You can get the trigger pull dropped, and you got to look in some states. There's a set trigger pull, like Massachusetts, I believe, is 10 or 12. I'm not 100%. I know it's really up there for trigger pull, which makes it almost like a double action. It's crazy.
Wow. No kidding. And then as far as caliber, I've heard, 9 millimeter is not ideal when it comes to self-defense. What are your thoughts on caliber as far as for a concealed carry or self-defense weapon?
Well, I will put it to you like this. Back in the Old West, a 22, well placed, stopped a threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that being said, if you're punching pencil sized holes into gorilla sized men, it's going to take a lot of pencil holes to stop that threat.
Yeah.
So, a 9 millimeter hollow point is pretty good. I mean, most police officers, I believe, use 40 cal. I may be mistaken, but I believe they use 40 cal, which is in between the 9 millimeter and the 45. Obviously, the 45 has a lot of stopping power, but it's a heavy gun and you don't get to carry as many rounds. The reason that we say 9 millimeter is perfect for EDC is because you can carry more rounds in the magazine and you can get more rounds down range faster rather than having to shoot 7 rounds and then reload.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. My shield is a 40. Yeah. But Lisa's got she's got 9 millimeter. So,
Yeah,
and like you said, I mean, 22 gets a lot of flack because yes, it's sort of like what I was talking about earlier with the lady that shot the dude in the kneecap rather than ending the threat. It is that sort of situation. There is a little bit with the 22. There's more of a chance that it doesn't end that situation, but there are, deaths every single year from, that's what's dangerous about a 22. Some of these people out there that have these and there's not a lot of recoil. There's not a lot of noise with some of the guns and it almost seems like a BB gun and it sort of gets treated like that. But a 22 is absolutely a lethal round.
Oh, for sure. Because once that enters you, the likelihood of it not of leaving, it's going to just bounce around your bones and turn your organs and your brain to mush.
Yeah.
So it is definitely a lethal round. But as far as it's really just personal preference. My ex sister-in-law, she carries a 22 semi-automatic. That's her carry gun. She's not comfortable with anything else, and my fiance, she has a 9 millimeter, she has a 380, and she has a 40. She likes the 9 millimeter.
Yeah. And you know what? This is another question for you because she's also got this 22. I can't remember what it's called. It's a Ruger, maybe, I can't remember what it is, but it's a little 22. And she really likes it because it doesn't have the recoil, because it's not as scary, right? So she's more apt to shoot that. When we go to the range, that's what she wants to shoot. Although I try to push her up, push her into the other direction. But if you're more apt and you're more willing to shoot something like that, would that be your recommendation? Hey, if you're willing to use it, then a 22 would be better than something that you're going to be more apprehensive in using.
That's exactly right. If you're comfortable, whatever you're comfortable with, if you're comfortable with shooting pepper balls, then so be it. Carry the pepper ball gun. If you're comfortable with the 22 because it doesn't have so much of the percussion that you're going to get from a 9 millimeter or a 45, then so be it. A lot of people get fearful because that percussion, when it hits them, it scares them, right? So what you need to do is continuously, repetitively shoot that firearm so that your body gets used to that percussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, and I just pulled this out. This is, let me see if I can turn me on. See how I can do this. Oh, this is, it's a Walther, P22.
PPK? Oh, P22. Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah. And it's a fun gun. It really is a fun gun, but, it is, it's not something I'd want to carry, but it is, just around the property, even for snakes and rodents and things like that, small game. It's a cool little gun. Along with that, it's a whole lot cheaper going to the range with the 22 than it is going with my AR.
That is an absolute fact. I think I bought 1,000 rounds of 22, and I think I spent $100 maybe.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's so much fun shooting the AR and shooting the higher caliber. I mean, like I said, with me, it's almost like this, and this little gun's got a little bit of noise to it, so it's not like I can't like a 22 LR long rifle that I used to have. I can't remember if that was a Ruger or not, but I mean, you could barely hear it. It was literally like a pellet gun, and that just, I mean, it was sort of boring. At least this one's a little bit fun, but yeah, definitely a whole lot cheaper than that.
Definitely, yeah. And getting back into the carry and what you should get, that's literally personal preference. Whatever feels comfortable for you, whatever you feel comfortable with, you're gonna carry. If, like I said before, if you get your missus a firearm and she's like, "Oh, I don't really like it," guess where it's gonna be? It's gonna be in the drawer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened with that LP9. we ended up selling that, yeah.
Plan B, that's exactly right. You need to spend time with the weapon that you're going to carry, for sure.
Yep.
A lot of
absolutely.
a lot of gun ranges have multiple different firearms that you can rent, and you can try them out to see which one you like the best.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more, and then I want to get into a couple of the other things. But Jammer had a question, and you can set it. Let me see if I've got this summary that he's got, because he's got sort of a long question as well. Go back to my notes here. Jammer, which was a pretty interesting question. He's talking about how to avoid being shot by first responders in an active shooter situation if you are a concealed carry owner and there to actually help. The old good guy with the gun adage. How are there any ways to sort of avoid that? He was mentioning a concealed carry badge, and would those actually work? As far would police in a high stress situation like that, actually look at those and say, okay, this dude's cool?
No, I fully do not recommend the CCW badge. It definitely, it looks a lot like a police badge where you could get into, oh, you're trying to impersonate a police officer or whatever.
Yeah.
The likelihood of you getting shot by a first responder, unless you're just running around waving your gun around, you're most likely you're going to get on the phone with 911. You're going to be talking to them, and you're going to say, okay, my name is X, Y, and Z. My pistol is in the holster in my appendix carry or my hip or my back. I'm wearing X, Y, and Z for clothing. And that way, when the police get there, they know what they're looking at. They're still probably going to handcuff you until they get the scene secure. But that's one very good way of not getting shot, is make sure you're on the phone with 911 and you let them know who you are. And yes, exactly, follow the commands of law enforcement.
Yeah. And it's such it's tough to sort of nail that down because it's such a fluid situation and it changes from each one to each one. And it's just kind of, I guess, training and thinking about what you would do in those situations and not making yourself look like the crazy ass, the Rambo or the, commando or whatever, trying to solve the situation yourself, work in conjunction with and all that. So it's a tough It's kind of tough because the situation is different every single time, depending on what would happen. And the likelihood of us being in a situation like that are slim, although it seems like that is growing these days. But
it is definitely getting more and more likely that you will, even if you don't have to engage, um, the likelihood of you being attacked is growing ever more with, you have this influx of illegal immigrants coming over, and they're not even from Mexico. They're from China and they're from wherever. But
Venezuela,
a lot of them are criminals, and a lot of them
yeah,
are committing crimes. So, and they're going to a town near you. So it's getting more and more likely that you may have to defend yourself. But knowing that the police are going to probably handcuff you anyways, your best bet is to let 911 know exactly what you're wearing, where your firearm is, and just sit there and wait for them to get there.
yeah, yeah. And then one last thing, but then I want to talk about Baghdad Bill's revolver or semi-automatic. But with that, now I just totally lost my train of thought. What I was going to expand on what you said. Oh, we were talking about insurance in the beginning, and I'm not sure if everyone heard that point right there. But whether you're talking about a situation like this, or you're talking about a self-defense situation at your home, or wherever you are, expect to probably be handcuffed, maybe even have to go to jail, and all of that stuff, correct? Because they're not, depending on the situation. Most of the time, though, if they haven't figured things out, you're probably going to be assumed a suspect, and in some states you're just hosed for defending yourself anyway. But what are some expectations if you do have to use a firearm in self-defense, whether it's a situation like we're talking about or a situation for home defense?
So most likely you're going to be handcuffed. They may put you in the cruiser until they get the situation secure. Then the police will probably come over and start asking you questions, saying, what happened, who was there, are there any other witnesses? And then it is up to you to say to them, I will comply with all of your questions. I will answer all of your questions. I'm waiting for my lawyer to get here. And
Yeah.
then make sure that your lawyer gets there before you open your mouth about anything, because
Yeah.
whatever you say is probably recorded, and they can use that against you. Should say you shoot the bad guy, he doesn't die, and then he tries to countersue you, right? So you want to be very careful with what you say, even though you're the good guy and the police know you're the good guy. It is their job to figure out who started it. The bad guy could say, "Hey, I was just walking by and this guy just shot me," right? So it's very important to wait for your lawyer to get there.
Yeah, and then
But
it's the lawyer's job to get the other guy off. So anything you say can and will be used against you.
that's exactly what it is. Like if you know that you're going to be arrested, then your first call should be and we go back to the insurance that you can get your for yourself for carrying your firearm. X Insurance, USCCA, the Right to Bear are all good insurance companies to make sure that you're covered. And usually they have a card that you get, and it has phone numbers on it that will have. I know the USCCA has lawyers 24 hours. If you are in a self-defense situation, you can call them up, and within 20 minutes or so, you're going to have a lawyer right there by your side.
Yeah, yeah.
Plan B just said it right. I want to comply with your questions. However, I want to have legal counsel present when I do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to Baghdad Bill's question about semi-auto or revolver. And this is an interesting one to me because I am one of those guys. I like the revolver. I just the guns themselves, the Taurus and things like that. I even like the old West type revolvers and things. But as far as, there's a lot of benefits to the semi-automatic over a revolver. Safety, I think as well, semi-automatics are a little bit better. What are your thoughts on that between the two, your preferences and just all the different factors you should think about?
So my thoughts with the revolvers, Revolvers are absolutely amazing. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have a jam with one of them. You're not going to have to worry about a double feed or a
Yeah.
stovepipe or anything like that. That being said, it is a great backup gun, but not so accurate when you're shooting it. Now, in defense situations, you're not going for precision, you're going to stop the threat. But if you're shooting a 357 snub nose, that thing's going to kick like a mule, and you're probably not going to be very accurate with it unless you just train with it all the time.
Yeah.
Semi-automatics are a little bit easier to handle. The grip is a lot different than it is than with a revolver. You know, with a revolver, you have the thumb over thumb. With the semi-automatic, your palm up against palm. So it's really personal preference again with regard to those. My preference is if I have a revolver, it's going to be my backup. If I have the option, I'm going to go with the semi-automatic.
Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. One more question from the group, and then we're going to move on a little bit to the EDC stuff. But and also when we go into the EDC section, if anybody's got any questions, I'm going to scan the chat and answer some of the questions you have. But Archangel Gabriel here said he heard you talking. You said earlier about 45 cal being too heavy. Why? He said 911 is not heavy and has stopping power. So why do you say 45 caliber is too heavy? Is that as far as what you're carrying, the amount you're carrying?
So when you're talking about the amount of ammo that you can carry, the reason that the military used the 5.56 and did not go with the 7.62 is because it's heavier. The 5.56 is lighter. You can carry more ammo. You can stay engaged in the fight longer. As far as 45, I've owned 45s before. I think they're great. As far as carrying capacity, the 1911, you're getting 7, maybe 10 rounds, maybe, unless you get a double stack, which you can get those. But when you're talking about the 9mm, usually a double stack 9mm, you're getting anywhere from 12 to 17 rounds. Whereas with a 1911, you're only going to get 7 to 10.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's that whole preference and weighing your pros and cons and deciding what you want to do and all that. Yeah,
exactly.
Denise said here she's got rat shot in a revolver on her side, the side of her bed. That's what my grandma used to have, an old beat up 22, man, and she was. That was back in the day. I mean, no handle on it, no pistol grips or anything, just a. And she was a mean old lady. I feel bad for anybody that would have walked in her house.
Hey, let me tell you, some of those tiny little pistols, like the Derringers, you get a 410 Derringer, put birdshot in that thing.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so I want to move on a little bit since we had so many disruptions in the very beginning of this show. If we get time, we'll talk about home security and stuff, but I want to talk about everyday carry and just general preparedness a little bit. And this is sort of an unscripted type thing. We've got a couple things that we're going to talk about. If anybody has any thoughts, comments, questions in the chat, make sure and put those in there. But you had posted a question in the group about, and a picture with your first aid kit in your car, and asked how many people or what do they have as far as first aid kits. And I thought that was pretty interesting because I think, one, that is something probably everybody should have, at least to some extent. And even I think Plan B was mentioning how he needs to probably retrain himself a little bit on that because it's been so long since he's taken one of the classes and things like that. But there's a lot of things. I keep a whole bunch of stuff in my truck, but a first aid kit, and it's especially when you're talking about if you're concealed carrying, you're going to the range and things like that, you should have trauma supplies as well to handle situations that you're going to run across. What types of things do you recommend people keep in their cars, their vehicles for first aid and stuff like that?
So as far as, keeping in your vehicle, I have a basic kit from Active Carry Technologies, and it has quick clot chest seals. It has HELOCs. It has your basic first aid stuff in it, but it comes with a cat tourniquet. Cat tourniquets are very, very important if you're in a life or
Yeah.
death situation, even if not even involving firearms. If you get into a car wreck and you sever an artery, you got minutes to get that put on. Um, but as far as going to the range, it's always important to have a range bag that has a good first aid kit in it. I have a really big bag that I spent way too much money on that has literally you could do field surgery with that thing. And I think I rummaged through it and then filled up all my bug out bags with all the stuff that was in it.
Yeah.
but but I spent way too much money on that one. Um, as far as your if you have a belt rig that you carry to the range, you can always get one of those little. You can get a little IFAC, little individual first aid kit that straps to your belt rig while you're at the range. You can get those little IFACs that just mount to your range bag, but you want to make sure you have HELOCs or quick clot. You want to make sure you have chest seals, tourniquet, and bandages. That way, should something happen, you get a ricochet, or you get God forbid, somebody accidentally shoots from another range and you get hit. You
Yeah.
want to make sure that you have the things to stop the bleeding.
Yeah. And sort of to what Plan B was talking about, and Kevin, the Broken Nomad in the chat here, we did a class, Prepper Med, he did. I was sort of there. I was the one learning. He was put the class together and teaching and stuff, but it's good to have it's essential to have a cat tourniquet, to the chest seals and things like that. But if you don't know how to use those things, you're you're almost more dangerous.
That's
It's
right.
sort of like that movie with Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy, where they slice open the person's throat to put a trach in there.
Oh yeah, yes. I don't recommend having to trick somebody.
Yeah.
But my fiance is a nurse, and I'm pretty sure she would frown upon me trying to give somebody a trick.
Yeah, yeah. But it is important to take classes and learn that stuff, right? And
It is.
is that something you do, or is that an addition to what you do?
So we offer, well, I am a USCCA certified instructor, and they offer the emergency first aid class, which I teach. It is an amazing class. It does go over basic first aid and how to keep somebody alive, or how to assess the body, and the basics. If you want to really get into something like TCCC, which is Tactical Casualty Combat Care, or tactical. I'm all messed up here. Tactical Casualty Combat, Tactical Combat. I'm all messed up now. Anyways, TCCC is goes way, way more into the advanced stuff, and as far as like doing trachs and doing like that sort of thing. But our basic class that I teach, that I'm certified to teach, we go over chest seals and how to put chest seals in. We actually have a dummy that you can actually do CPR on. It's the basic. It just gets you basic knowledge of how to keep somebody alive, basically until the first responders get there.
Yeah, yeah. And Kevin said here in the chat, he said he's got 3 kits in his van, various sizes from basic to advanced stuff. I've got 2 in my truck. I've got one is a trauma kit, and then I've got the other one that's got all of the, the normal stuff that may happen, from, breaks and sprains to bigger cuts and things like that. But yeah, I think it's important to have those things, but you also have to think about the skills to be able to use those things. And even like Plan B was talking about, where it's been a while since he's taken one of the classes, that's still a lot better than being one of these people out there that are just like, okay, I went to this prepper website or this everyday carry website, Skinny Medic or something, and these are the things that he told me to get. So I got all these. I'm good to go.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Probably not the case.
Yeah, but do you know how to use them? So I like to train with my tourniquets. I'll throw them on and I'll wrap them up real tight and I'll squeeze them until my blood starts pumping in my arm, and then I loosen it up. Obviously, I don't want to cut the circulation off of my arm, but I'll throw it on my leg or I'll throw it on my arm. Obviously, if you have trauma to the cardiovascular triangle, you have a lot more things to worry about than bleeding out from an arm. Um, Broken Nomad said, keep up the training. Absolutely. When you get your kits, go through it. They usually have a instruction booklet that shows you what they're for. It doesn't go into how to use them, but it does tell you what their uses are for. And as far as what I think Plan B said, do not use tampons
Yeah.
to plug a wound. That is the bad idea.
I had to pull that comment up because I hear that all the time. Still, I hear that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So that, you get the quick clot gauze, and that has the quick clot on it, and it's gauze that you can plug the wound with. A lot of people will say, "Oh, it's just kind of like a tampon," but it's really not like a tampon because it's not gonna break apart. It's not gonna swell up way too big. Because that's what the tampons are designed to do. They swell up and they collect all this stuff, and then you try to pull it out, you make a bigger mess.
Yeah, and it's like with everything in preparedness. Get the right tool for the job, and that is most definitely not the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tiger said, "I think if he's bleeding that bad, he ain't gonna make it without a hospital." Absolutely, I agree. The best you can do is just comfort him and tell him that it'll be all right.
Yeah. And on top of that, us as men, I mean, women probably have them and things like that, but us as men, I don't I don't have any in my truck. Lisa might in her car. I don't know, but it's not something that we're going to have readily available anyway. And it's not something that, as I'm going through my list of everyday carry items that I want, it's not something that ever makes my list. So
back before they decided that tampons were a bad idea for plugging wounds, when I was in the military, I used to carry one in my rucksack.
Did
I had
you?
one or two. Oh yeah, and then they said, "Oh yeah, you can't do that. Tactical casualty combat care.
Yeah.
It's not a layperson." You're right. No, it's not Broken Nomad. It's difficult to be able to get into a TCCC course. You have to be a first responder or military to be able to kind of get into that. You can become an instructor for the TCCC. I haven't received my instructor certifications for that, but going through what I went through with the military training courses that we took, it was the TCCC course. But of course, civilians, it's very difficult unless you're like a nurse or a doctor. Yeah, EMS, right?
Yeah. Now, let's move on a little bit from the first aid stuff. As far as other everyday carry items, and I suppose we'll keep on the self-defense stuff that we were talking about today. If you are, because you do consulting as far as for businesses, for schools, for home security, a lot of different things. As far as other self-defense options, say, and this sort of, I suppose, goes into what Plan B was talking about earlier with the less than lethal things. But with your everyday carry, those supplies that whether you keep them in your truck, you keep them on your person, what are some other things that might be important for people to have, depending on what situations they may encounter? Whether that's driving home, whether that's at work. I know that's tough because there are certain rules you have to follow while you're at work. But what are some of the other options rather than concealed carry?
So you could, my personal, what I carry, I have a pocket knife, I have a multi-tool, I have a first aid kit in my truck. Yeah, big stick. My day job I carry a big wrench. But, you know, uh, if you can carry a pocket knife and a multi-tool, because a multi-tool does have a knife on it, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be like your go-to, good blade that you can whip out if you need to. You want to make sure that you have, if you're in your vehicle, you want to make sure you have something that has a glass break on it in case, God forbid, something happens, kind of like the bridge collapse, and you find yourself in the water and you got to bust the glass to get out.
Yeah.
Um, you want to have a seatbelt cutter on it. So all of my knives have a seatbelt cutter and a glass break on them.
Yeah, and that's all important stuff to have. That's why I've got. I mean, I've got a truck with an extended cab, so I've got room to put all that stuff in there. But I think it really is important to think about those situations. You just never know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. I mean, car accidents happen all the time these days. The incidents at work, whether that be a mass shooting situation or just whatever it is, you just never know. But it's also
Yep.
really complex. You can put whatever you want in your car for the most part. But as far as going into work, that's a totally different story. Now, I don't think your boss is probably going to frisk you to find your little pocket knife or your multi-tool. And even if you did have a multi-tool, they're probably going to think, okay, that's just a little multi-tool.
Yeah.
But you probably don't want to walk into, if you're an accountant or something or a secretary, you don't want to walk in with an 8-inch fixed blade knife on your belt. Probably not going to go over too well.
Absolutely not. No. But a good little pocket knife, like, Benchmade makes good knives. There's a few others that are much, much more expensive, better quality, but Benchmade and K-Bar, they make pretty good pocket knives. K-Bar does make a lot of fixed blades that are amazing.
Hmm.
But as far as pocket knives that you can clip right in your pocket, Benchmade makes amazing ones. Shannon said weather prep supplies for the season, 1,000%.
Yeah, I was just going to pull that up. Yep. So we can go there. Yeah.
So if we live up in the Great White North up here, so winter lasts about, I don't know, 9 months. So emergency blankets for your vehicle, emergency blankets, food, water. You want to make sure you have like a case of water just in the back. Water doesn't really go bad too awful fast, so but you definitely want to have those, a little weather radio. God forbid you end up in a ditch. You want to have something like hand warmers to keep your hands warm, your feet warm. Other places like down south, you have tornadoes, you have hurricanes. It's just going to vary from region to region.
Yeah. And out here in Colorado and a lot of other states as well, you've got the different seasons that can be, in the summertime here, you're talking 100 degrees sometimes. That's pretty high here for Colorado. And then in the winter, you're talking below zeros. So it's important also to have those things, but do inventory every 6 months or so. With me, I do it before the seasons change and make sure I do have the shovel, the gloves, the blankets, those, like you were talking about, hand warmers, things like that in a situation where I'm driving, because you never know, you're going to have those things. I also have in both of our cars, I've got the little jump starter air compressor combo thing, and they just fit nice and small right in the trunk. And those could be something that it's also a little battery bank. It's got a flashlight with the strobe light and all those things that you can just stick in your car and forget about it. Water's a little more difficult out here when you're talking about wintertime, but if you get a gallon jug or a larger container and fill it halfway, you don't have to worry about it freezing and popping the thing open.
Right.
But there are things you can keep in your car that don't require a whole lot of maintenance. And as long as you're checking them from time to time, like the hand warmers will last a really long time. And as long as you're replacing those and checking those, those are things you should have in there. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we should have in our car, just that the average person doesn't think about. I've bought cars for my kids. They're used cars. None of them ever have a jack in them. I don't know why that is.
Yeah,
and most people don't even think about the stuff like we think about it as preppers.
Right. So what are you gonna do? Like when you have a flat tire, you're like, "Crap! I didn't check to see if it had a jack in it." So
Yeah.
jacks are great, and you can use the jack as a weapon if you need to.
Yeah, the
Excuse me.
tire iron.
The tire iron. You can use the jack or the tire iron as a weapon if you need to. Um, Shannon made a good point here. She said list medications, medical conditions for emergency response if you are found unresponsive. That's awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. There's just a lot of things. I mean, we don't need to have every single thing because then we wouldn't have. I've got so much stuff in the backseat of my truck that I have to move things around whenever we put the kids in there, or back when the
Oh
kids
yeah.
lived here. It's not an issue these days, but you don't have to have every single little thing. But all the little tips, the couple that Shannon gave and that Kevin had been given and stuff, is absolutely fantastic advice because it's better to have those and never need them than to be in a situation where the EMTs are fantastic at their job, or the first responders are fantastic at what they do, but any little bit of help you could give them as far as directing them and as far as what they should do and can do and shouldn't do, I think is going to be super beneficial. And if you do find yourself in a situation like that, which is a touchy situation as far as from a legal perspective and otherwise, if you are in a situation where you are that first responder, you need to know what you can feasibly do as well, and not, like I said earlier, not make the situation worse by going in and thinking, oh, I got this, I'm going to yank this person out of the car, I'll throw a cat tourniquet on them and wait for the first responders here. That goes into the training as well. You got to know what you should do in situations like that.
Oh yeah, it's funny that you say that because so we go up to the Kangamangas Highway and we go look at the fall foliage every year. And we went up there this last year and there was a car wreck literally right in front of us. And the car flipped on its side, two elderly people. Um, my fiance runs over, we're running up there. We're trying to hold the door open and we're pulling we're pulling these people out. We got she's a nurse, there's another nurse, and there's a paramedic on the way, and we're pulling them out of the car, and all the while we're trying to hold the car on its side so it doesn't fall over on anybody else. And we get the lady out, we get the man out, and my fiance's laying there with the man holding his head, so it doesn't move, doesn't cause any more damage. And I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, oh my goodness, like should we have done that? Should we have just waited? But she was Johnny on the spot, and she knew exactly what to do. It was great, but not
Yeah.
everybody has that.
Yeah. I'm curious in the chat, and Plan B just asked a question. I got to put this up real quick. Some people are watching. He said he's only getting some of the chat. Some people are watching on Rumble. Some people are watching on Survival's Prepper, and some people are watching on the Bug Out Location, and then even Facebook. So whatever platform you're on, that's all you're going to see. And unfortunately, there's no way to post everything. I suppose I don't know if I can throw everything up here on the screen or not, but now I lost my train of thought again.
That's all. It happens.
I know. I was going to ask everyone in the chat, if you're driving down the road and you do see a situation like that, and I'll ask you too, Anthony, I'm sure I know the answer of what you're going to say, but if you did see a situation and you were the first responder, would you have the skills to actually help? Would you stop? Or, hopefully hopefully nobody would just drive by, but would you be able to help out in a situation like that? Anthony, I'll let you go, and I'm pretty sure I know what your response is, but or what is your advice to people that maybe just the average person that doesn't have a whole lot of skills, doesn't have a whole lot of training, sees something like that happen where maybe it's just a single car or it's a car wreck and it happened right in front of your face, and there hasn't been enough time that's elapsed for the first responders to get there. What, maybe should some people's first reactions be?
So some of the things that you can do is, you have to assess the situation. Number one, you have to make sure that you're going to be safe. If you come upon a car accident and the car is smoking or the car suddenly catches on fire, You want to make sure that you are at a safe distance. Um, Secondly, you're going to want to be on the phone with 911 while you're running over to the car or whatever the accident is. You want to ask the person, "Hey, are you okay? What's hurting on you right now? Is everything okay?" Um, you really, if you're just the average person, you want to kind of leave it to the uh, the first responders. If you have any kind of training on tourniquets, if they're bleeding profusely, obviously you want to try to help stop the bleed, but you don't want to try to pull them out of something where they may be pinned and you could cause more damage to them.
Yeah.
But you want to assess the situation, and then you want to give the 911 dispatcher all the information that you see while they're on the way to the scene.
Yeah, and that's what I would do in a situation like that. I would a couple of great comments. Jammer talking about Jammer and Shannon, call 911 and don't put yourself at risk. I would do my best to comfort that person as if they were conscious, and make sure to get the people that know what the hell they're doing there as quickly as possible. Sort of assess the situation, make sure that there's not any other danger that is immediately present, sort of like, the car sinking in a lake or maybe the car getting ready to explode, something like that. But in just I don't want to say, I guess it's not a normal situation, but an average situation, it would be more about keeping them as calm and comfortable as possible and trying to do whatever I can to get the other people there that know what they're doing as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah. You definitely want to let the professionals do their job. But any information that you can give them while they're on their way to responding, that's going to make the chances of them surviving that much better.
Yeah. And Tiger put a comment here. I got to clarify too. Yeah. He said cars don't explode like on TV. They start to burn and they'll burn pretty rapidly. Yeah, that is true, because the gas, I mean, they're designed that way these days. Whoops, wrong one. So I didn't mean like you see on TV where it's the car starts to smoke a little bit and then 2.5 seconds later, it's this massive explosion. But sometimes they can fairly quickly just get engulfed in flames, and you've got to sort of assess the situation like that and make sure that. I don't know what I would do, and I'm not giving any advice or anything like that. But if I saw a situation like that, that would be something where I may pull that person out of the car and get them far enough away that they are safe. They're in safety. But again, I'm not recommending or anything. I'm just stating what I might do in a situation that was that dire. Same thing with a car sinking in a lake, right? I'm going to grab that person and try to get them out of there, because if I don't, they're toast.
Again, that's where the seatbelt cutter comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely.
With people that are in accidents, if you cut the gas line, it's leaking and a spark and you get a fire, and you need to get that person out of there. At that point, if you caused a little bit of damage, and this is just my opinion, I'm not gonna say go do that, but the damage that you're gonna cause to them pulling them out of the car, as opposed to them burning to death, weigh the options. You want to see somebody die, if you could prevent it. As far as going into a lake, again, the window brake and the seatbelt cutter, you can get them right out, and
Oh, are you there?
Oh, I'm here. Yep.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you finished your thought or not.
No. Yeah, I finished my thought. I was reading Plan B's comment.
Yeah, he was talking about how he's been in a situation twice. I've never been in a situation. I've been in a situation where you've got somebody's pulled over on the side of the road and things are, maybe their vehicle isn't working, and I've stopped and helped them out. But I've never been in a situation where I saw an accident happen and was one of the first people there to assist. If I do see, and I don't know, maybe this is rude, but if I do see something that has happened 5-10 minutes before me, I choose not to get involved. If there's somebody else there helping out and doing something, I choose not to get involved because who knows these days with how everything's going to go after that. And it's not about not helping the person. It's about not putting myself through a whole bunch of crap down the line.
I agree with you. Shannon said situational awareness. That goes into not putting yourself at risk. If it's a life or death situation where you could possibly die in saving those people, best to just let the first responders take care of it. Knowing how to assess threats, you can practice these things. You can, me and my fiance, we love going and people watching, and we'll just watch how people interact with each other. So you get to see the area around you, and you can adjust accordingly to whatever situation. And that goes into even with carrying your firearm. Situational awareness is knowing everything around you. You could see if you're looking down the street and you see a fight, well, you can avoid that by walking the other way, because if you see it and you go to it and you engage, well, you knowingly went into harm's way, right? Now, if it happens in front of you, that's one thing. But if it's down the road, and obviously it's personal preference to go do so, but you're taking your freedom and your life into your own hands doing it that way.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? It's a great point, Shannon. I think situational awareness is, whether you're talking about a situation we were talking a little bit about earlier where you're at work, you're in a get home situation, you see shady things going on, whether you're, just going out to lunch, wherever you are, the grocery store, the more you're paying attention to things like that, all of those different things, you're setting yourself up more for success, or at least giving yourself better odds than the typical person these days that has got their head buried in their cell phone, or they get out of their car going into the grocery store and, look down to their purse, put their keys in their purse, or, guys, not necessarily the purse, but grab your phone and, not even paying attention to what's going on around you. And that situation right there where you're getting in and out of your vehicle, you're pretty vulnerable. So
very vulnerable, and especially, not so much for the men, but women in general have they're higher risk of being assaulted walking to their car from the grocery store, from the mall. They're more at risk of being attacked. And if you sit around and you watch these people, like you sit in the parking lot, when my fiance goes into the grocery store sometimes and I sit in the car, I watch people and none of them are looking around. They're all looking at their phone, or they're all going, and they're off in La La Land. So, you try to teach people, hey, pay attention to your surroundings. When you walk out, look to your left and right and see if somebody, like Shannon said, recognize when you're being watched. It's very, we had that same situation happen over Christmas at the mall. Literally, these people were watching us, following us. I don't know what they were trying to do, but the minute that they caught on that we were watching them, they took off.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that's all it takes, is just acknowledging that I see you seeing me.
Exactly. Because the bad guy wants to be, they want the shock and awe. They want to grab you and shock you so you don't know what to do. Right. But if you look at them and you say, I got my eye on you, and I'm watching you, dude, they usually are pretty quick to disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. And also with the situational awareness thing, sort of along the lines of the in the workplace, or going to an event where, there's a possibility of mass shootings and things like that, is understanding your surroundings as well. The places that you're going to be able to escape. When I go to, and I don't much anymore, but going to concerts, going to football games, I'm always, I'm really anxious in situations like that. That's probably why I don't go much anymore. But I'm always looking, okay, if something happens over here, this is my escape route this way. If something happens over here, this is what I'm going to do. You, from a military perspective, probably have a whole lot more honed in type plan. I don't know how to say that, but probably think about a lot more different things than I do in situations like that. And you probably teach it too, correct?
Well, yeah, we do teach the proper ways to when you walk into anywhere. If you walk into a mall, you walk into a restaurant, you're going to go eat with your family. Know your egress points, right? No, you want to know how to get out as soon as possible. As far as like you know, the situational awareness is just that. You're paying attention to your surroundings, and when people don't do that. If you go to a restaurant, all of you guys, when you go to a restaurant, you go and watch people, and none of them are paying attention. I sit with my back to the wall, facing the entrance, so I can see people coming in. My fiance is very good at allowing me to do that. She usually, well, before she met me, she said she always sat facing the entrance, but she's comfortable knowing that I would protect her should something happen.
Hmm.
So she allows me to sit with my back facing the wall. Leave before people get drunk. Yes. So you
Yeah,
can
I was
always
just gonna
tell
say.
when, yeah, you can always tell when things start escalating. If you're at a bar, I want to get back to the concerts. One of the only times that in my memory, that those people were sitting ducks was probably the Las Vegas shooting. The Las Vegas shooting, they literally were sitting ducks inside a bunch of Jersey barriers, and they were being shot at from an elevated position. So you're really just a sitting duck
Hmm.
at that point. And at that point, it's mass chaos because you have 30,000 people at a concert venue or however many people were there, and they're all trying to scramble for the exits. But when you're talking about restaurants, excuse me, if you're sitting up against a window and something bad happens, you can watch, you can see it happen, you can bust the window and get your family out. Flip the table over so you can find some cover.
Yeah,
You don't want to stay in that situation. You want to get out as fast as you can.
yeah, and you know what? It's unfortunate, but these days more than ever, these are the things that even, and this is not just an extreme, tactical thing or prepper thing. This is, just what the average normal person should be thinking about. And like I said, it is unfortunate, but it's just it's the reality of the world that we live in. Society has gone off the freaking rails, and that's a whole nother show talking about all that crap. But
Yep.
yeah, it is something we need to think about.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I could go on and on about the situational awareness, de-escalation of a threat. I could go on for days and days about that. Um, I know we have limited time, so we have to
Yeah.
and the way Shannon just said, yeah, absolutely. Do not look like a easy target. A lot of people walk around with their cell phones in their face, right? So the bad guy's just like, oh, I can pickpocket this person, or I could hold this person at gunpoint. They're gonna shit themselves. If you're looking around, right? If you're looking around and you're making eye contact with people, if you're making eye contact with a guy or gal that decides they want to do harm to you, the minute you make eye contact with them, the likelihood of them attacking you has just dropped significantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, we are going to get out of here today. We're over an hour now, but I do want to. I'm going to have you back on in the future because we didn't get to home security because we had so much crap going on in the beginning.
Yeah.
But the soft target thing sort of goes the same lines with that, is making sure that excuse me, making sure that if you look like a bigger threat than the next person, that criminal, that bad guy is going to move on to the next person. Same thing goes with your house. If your house looks like it's going to be super easy to get in and out of, they're likely to do that. If it looks like it's going to be harder than your next door neighbors, then they may just move to your next door neighbors. Same thing with your personal security. You don't have to be, and that's probably why women are more likely to get to be in situations like this, because they're perceived as a less of a threat. Although that is not the case sometimes, but they are perceived that way. But it is just. Even if it's not, carrying around if you're a woman carrying around a tactical backpack and a Rambo knife on your hip or something like that, just paying attention and just staring somebody down and saying, hey, I see you. I know exactly what you look like. I'm paying attention to exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
And things like that.
It is definitely the way that you carry yourself.
Yeah.
If you carry yourself slouched over, You know, like you see all these teenagers nowadays, they're slouched over looking at their phones. If you walk with your back straight and you're walking with purpose, they're going to be less likely to come after you because they know that you're paying attention to everything.
Yeah. Yep. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. It actually worked out pretty well once we got the whole, the first half an hour or so ironed out. I do want to have you back on in the future, though. I don't know when, and we'll make sure we'll figure things out beforehand, make sure everything's working correctly. But I do want to talk a little bit more about some of the classes that you teach. I want to talk about the security, the home security, and even you do things for businesses and schools as well. Talk about that before we get out of here just a little bit. Explain what the classes that you or the instruction that you do on your website, or they're in New Hampshire and you have all the information on your website.
Yeah, all the information for the classes is on the website, homefrontft.com. One of the big classes that I kind of started pushing this last year is dating safety. That is its own entity with the way technology is nowadays and the way predators are nowadays. Dating safety is at the top. But I do concealed carry, I do basic first aid, I do intro to firearms maintenance and how to store them properly. We go into with the security consulting. We go into businesses, we find the egress, the how to get out. For those of you that don't know what egress means, it's exit. And infill, you want to look at where infill is coming in. You want to find the threat angles. You want to find the places that should probably have cameras. And we do the same thing for homes. For homes, we show people basically where to put their cameras. There's 3M film that makes your glass basically impervious. We teach de-escalation skills. Yes, we do, Shannon. And excuse me, how to make your house look like not a threat. And if somebody is just hell bent on coming in, how to keep them from getting in. You have the Strike Master 2, which is a steel bar that goes in between your door jamb and your door. And basically, you could not kick that in because the screws go into the studs. And it's like 3 feet long, this steel bar is. You can do other things, obviously, but just adding those little small things to your home or to your business will make it safe for your employees or your family.
Yeah, yeah. And there really is a lot that goes into that. And I do want to, like I said, I want to get you on in the future if you're willing, and just maybe we'll just do a show on that type of security, whether it's, businesses or your home security. But there are so many things, much like a lot of the things we were talking about tonight with the first aid and everything else, that there are the little things that you can do that are going to make a huge impact that the average person doesn't really even think about. They're so consumed with other things. But it doesn't have to be, Fort Knox. Your house doesn't have to be, locked up like probably, all the houses in Martha's Vineyard and all that crap. But, there are a lot of things we can do to just, at the very least, delay somebody from trying to get you.
Exactly.
And allow you to set yourself up in a better position. So
exactly. A lot of the things that we do for the homes in general is we make it to where it's harder for them to get in. It takes them longer to get in, which means you can get to safety faster. And so you're not losing your mind with this guy jumping through the window, right? Some of that window film that they have, you could slap it with a crowbar 50 times and you're just going to splinter it.
Yeah. Cool stuff. All right, man. Well, like I said, if you're willing, I'd love to have you back on in a little bit and just go through that. But I appreciate you being on. Really cool show. Once we got everything, like Jammer said, once we got everything YouTube thing warmed up, turned into a really cool show.
That's right.
Yeah. Very, a lot of good information and a lot. And also when we get back on, we can talk about guns again, because that's something that everybody just loves to talk about. I do too.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's another one that's never ending.
I
So
agree. I would love to come back on. I really, really appreciate you having me on tonight. And sorry for the little snafu right up in the beginning, but I'll be happy to come back on. And I love this. I love what you do. I love following you. I love the content that you put out on the bug out location.
yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate everyone that did sticking around tonight. You got a good show if you did. But yeah, we'll do something in the future and talk about that, because that is really, regardless of what sort of prepping you're doing, whether you are the guy that thinks that the bombs are going to start dropping, or the person that thinks bombs are going to start dropping and you got to hide in your bunker, or you're that person that just wants to prepare for natural disasters and things like that. Home security, I think, is one of those things that is essential, regardless. And even if you're not, you don't consider yourself a prepper or whatever, it's just one of those things that is essential, especially in today's day and age where society, and maybe that's another thing we could talk about too, is how and why society has just completely gone downhill, not just here in the United States, but basically all westernized societies and all that. Anyway, we got to get out of here. I'm going to start going on a rant if we start going on that. But with that, again, appreciate you joining in tonight. Everyone in the chat, appreciate you all joining in tonight. If you are listening to this podcast, it's probably going to start and you're going to wonder what the hell's going on, but you got the gist of it towards the end. We just had a few problems in the beginning when we got those ironed out, but I appreciate you all listening. I've got the link to Anthony's website, firearmsft.com. You can go to and check that out. The link is in the description below, and I will also leave it in the show notes. But go have a look, and if you're in the New Hampshire area, have a look at what he's doing. You can get in touch with him as well, and if you've got any questions. But appreciate you being on tonight, Anthony. Everyone in the chat, appreciate you all joining in, but we are going to get out of here. Anthony, stick around a little bit after the show. But everyone else, take care and prepare. We will talk to you all later.